Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. And today, the impeachment trial of Donald Trump begins in the Senate. We're going to talk about why this ongoing political theater by the numbers begins on this specific date. Again, just in case you've missed the countless videos I've put out on this impeachment process, going back to September, and really even before that, we've been talking about the likely impeachment of Trump since the day he took office, something the Democrats have been bringing up since the time he took office. But if you've missed all the months and truly years of work we've done on this, catch you up to speed real fast before we get into it. Going to do something different here than pretty much everyone else does in the world, and hopefully that'll change in time, because everyone really needs to be doing this who's talking about our federal government and, the rigged political system we have. But again, Washington, D.C. is known as the Masonic City. That's because it's named after the Mason George Washington, who was a member of the Scottish Rite. That's why Washington, D.C. was laid out by the Scottish Rite Freemason L'Enfant from France. And that's why this nation's history has so much Masonic influence. Again, long before 1776, about 50 years earlier, there was a book written by a very powerful Freemason. And he wrote the book about the Constitution of the Freemasons. And people who have studied that book have realized that what's written within it are the same things that are written within our Constitution. People who've read Manly P. Hall, he has exposed as a Mason that this nation was founded by Masons who had the secret mission of spreading democracy across the world. Does that sound like the United States of America you know? Of course it does. But the thing is, what is democracy really to these people? Because there's no democracy here. It's a Masonic dictatorship. Anyhow, the Masons, they believe in esoteric knowledge, Kabbalah, Kundalini, Hermeticism, alchemy. They believe in things like astrology, things that the common person has been programmed to believe are silly, even though these are the knowledge from thousands of years ago that rulers used to rule over people. So we're going to focus on a practice that comes from Kabbalah that's very important to our federal government, and again, that is Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words and using these numbers and words in accordance with dates in the calendar year. And I'll remind people, the Gregorian calendar was established at the same time English was being established as a 26-letter alphabet with the spellings we've agreed to today. And if you've read my book, no doubt about it, the English language, which is the language of the world, more and more so each day, it is perfectly in tune with the Gregorian calendar. Again, we used to be on the Julian calendar for people who don't know that. Now we're on the Gregorian calendar. Prior to the Julian calendar, we were on a lunar calendar. Anyhow, let's get into it. Why is this reaching the Senate today, this impeachment trial on January 21st, a date that's written 21/1 in the majority of the world, like 211? Again, if you're new here, these are very special numbers. 211 and 211, the 47th prime number. I have a campaign, what is 47? Because this is the number that is boss above all. And 211 and 47 have a prime number relationship. So the word Mason, again, D.C. is the Masonic City, named after the Mason George Washington. So in a cipher known as Jewish Gematria, which is based on the English letters in their old Latin order from the Latin alphabet, the letters that came from Latin to English, this is an older cipher based on this system, but a very relevant cipher. Mason is 211, the 47th prime. And with regards to it being the 47th prime, remember, the Masonic compass out of the Scottish Rite out of France, like L'Enfant, who laid out France, was a Scottish Rite Freemason from France. It's set at 47 degrees in tribute to the 47th problem of Euclid, which is about how to establish foundation for a structure. Foundation, that word in Gematria, sums to 47. It's why this nation's birthday is the 4th day of the 7th month. The cornerstone for Washington, D.C. was laid by George Washington, September 18th, 1793, a date with a life lesson number of 47. The cornerstone for the Washington Monument was laid on July 4th. Remember, holiday equals 74, Masonic 74, Independence Day 74. And July 4th can be written 7-4 or 4-7. Keep in mind the word beast equals 47, and the Washington Monument is 555 feet above ground and 111 below. That's not a conspiracy theory, that's a fact that you can read at the monument. The monument is 666 feet in length, the number of the beast. And with regards to beast equaling 47, like time, like foundation, all of these things sum to 47. And just before we go through this, again, just in case you're new here, there's always new people, I'm going to type out 2 words. I'm going to type out gavel, and I'm going to type out judge. And I'm going to go over the 4 base ciphers. I just want you to see that judge and gavel are the exact same in all 4. There's a lot of words that have very strong relationships, that have a lot of gematria overlap. Notice judge and gavel are the exact same in all 4 ciphers. And again, the 4 ciphers. The first one, English ordinal, also known as simple English gematria. It's just using the alphabetic order. A's 1, B's 2, C's 3, D's 4, E's 5, up to Z, the 26 letters, 26. The next cipher is the alphabetic order with the rules numerology. So A's 1, B's 2, C's 3. None of that changes until you get to J, the 10th letter, because you use numerology in this cipher. So in the green cipher, J is 10, but in this cipher, J is 1, because the numerology of 10 is, numerology just means adding the digits of a number to make it a single digit number. So 10 is 1 plus 0 is 1. K, the 11th letter, would be 1 plus 1 is 2. L, the 12th letter, would be 1 plus 2 is 3. M, the 13th letter, would be 1 plus 3 is 4. You just make each letter a single digit number. So when you get to Z, the 26th letter, what would that be? Think about it. What's 2 plus 6? Yes, Z is 8. The next cipher is the reverse alphabetic order, making Z 1 and just going in reverse. Back to A is 26. And the last cipher is the reverse alphabetic order with the rules numerology. And to see the relevance of these ciphers, go to Donald Trump's first Supreme Court installation. Well, you can do it with the second as well, but that was Neil McGill Gorsuch. And he was confirmed as the Supreme Court Justice to replace Anthony Scalia, who had died by the numbers. Get into that another time. But he was confirmed on April 7th. April 7th, 4-7, like 47. And do you see the 88 and 25? Again, he was Trump's first pick. Notice Trump, the name. Trump equals 88 and 25. And his full name, Neil McGill Gorsuch, equals 88. It also equals 187, like George Washington, like Washington, D.C., like ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry, like how Trump had his first GOP convention July 18th, 18/7, a span of 187 days from Inauguration Day. Like how Trump had the Congress vote on his impeachment 187 days from his birthday. Like how the latest editions of Kenneth Starr and Dershowitz was a big 187 ritual. And again, we'll cover all this. But the point I'm making is you need to know these base ciphers to see through all the rituals that are done. And notice Neil Gorsuch, what people more commonly call him, his first and last name is 59 and 58. Again, it's the Masonic city. Freemasonry is 58 and 59. Don't forget Donald Trump is the winner of the rigged 58th U.S. presidential selection. That's why he announced he was running from the 58-story Trump Tower and hired the 58-year-old Steve Ray for Inauguration Day. And it's why Hillary, who suggested Trump should be impeached when he first took office, wrote the book What Happened, which equals 58, about why she lost the election to Donald. And there's just so many things here. Like you see the 50, Donald's 50, America's 50, it's the land of 50 states and a million territories. So anyway, just wanted to set up the base ciphers. Now using those base ciphers, knowing how significant 47 is to the Masons, with the reverse alphabetic order, DC 47, with the reverse alphabetic order and rules of numerology. Government 47. The word authority 47 with what's considered the most pure cipher, the regular alphabetic order and the rules of numerology. The term the cabal's 47. White House is 47. President's 47. Trump's 47. Trump was a lifelong Democrat. He became a Republican when Obama was in office. Obama took office at age 47. His 47th vice president, or his vice president, was the 47th vice president, Joe Biden. Don't forget, Trump was in the 47-story Midtown Hilton Hotel the night of the rigged selection. Don't forget that Bill Clinton took office as president on Inauguration Day 211 days before his 47th birthday. These numbers again and again. But Republican, Democrat, 47. This whole impeachment scandal has to do with Trump supposedly making a phone call to the Ukrainian president where, he made threats about withholding the military for political bargains, supposedly looking up dirt on Joe Biden. I'll remind people, the president of Ukraine right now, and we covered this when it happened, it was a giant ritual by the numbers when he was selected. Numbers we talked about in Ukraine in years past with other leaders, Yatsenyuk and more. But if you remember what that man was doing before he became president of Ukraine, he was a comedian. So just think about this. This is a joke on all of us. The president of Ukraine right now is a comedian. The president of the United States is a reality TV star. Speaking of 211, what's Donald Trump's title from TV? The Apprentice, 211, the 47th prime. See how they groomed us, making him the big boss man in the boardroom, an authority figure, and the next thing you know, he's the president of the United States. But anyway, the president of Ukraine is truly a comedian. Look it up if you doubt what I'm saying. That's what he was doing before becoming president. And, of course, Donald Trump's the rich kid born with the silver spoon in his mouth. He's been a TV celebrity for pretty much all of his adult life. And, again, it is all a joke. It is all a mockery. And then here's Joe Biden. He was supposedly going after dirt on Joe Biden. I mean, who needs dirt on Joe Biden? And how can Joe Biden be leading the polls for the Democrats when this guy speaks? He's incoherent. It's clear that his mind doesn't even work. I'm pretty sure the dementia's set in. I mean, my goodness. He gets asked a question and in mid-sentence, he just all of a sentence turns into talking about something else. Was that supposed to be a transition? I mean, what is wrong with this guy? Anyway, he was the 47th vice president. It's the ritual. It is the ritual. So, with the alphabetic order, remember how we were talking about Mason 211, the 47th prime in Jewish Gematria? Mason equals 62 with the alphabetic order. Today, the trial begins on a date with 62 numerology, and it's exactly 62 days after Joe Biden's birthday. Who's front and center in this? Let's not forget that Joe Biden, his political career took off after his wife and daughter died in supposedly a car crash. That's how things seem to go in this world of celebrity. Few people drop dead next to you, and next thing you know, you got the best movie, you got the best-selling album, you're the MVP of the league. Again, Masonry's credited with so many things in this Masonic nation. The sports, they run the show here. So remember, the vote by the numbers in the House was December 18th. Now the trial begins in the Senate, a span of 35 days later. Notice impeach is 35, Senate's 35. See how this works? See how it works? That's why you got to know the ciphers. Today is 119 days after the impeachment inquiry, September 24th. We'll get to that. Remember, that was on Trump's 103rd day of his age. Impeachment inquiry equals 103. Scottish equals 103, as in the Scottish Rite, as in how Trump's of Scottish ancestry. But with regards to it being 119 days after that, remember the first article of impeachment against Donald was obstruction of Congress, which equals 119. And it also equals 277, the 59th prime, and this is all leading up to the 59th U.S. presidential election. It also equals 97, the 25th prime, like Trump. Time magazine wrote after how Trump first took office, how he could be the first president removed with the 25th Amendment. But don't forget that Donald in Jewish Gematria equals 119, and don't forget his commercial with Serta mattresses talking to digital sheep. with numbers 11 and 9 on their side. That commercial came out 9 years before he became president. His closing words are looking good, number 9, looking good. And when you add 1 through 9 together, it equals 45, like how he became the 45th president-elect. And he was announced as the 45th president-elect in the early hours of November 9th, the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Berlin Wall. Don't ever forget, Berlin Wall equals 45. You know, Mr. Wall. So, anyway, today is 119 days after that. Obstruction of Congress, the first article of impeachment. Today is 180 days after the phone call to the Ukrainian president, or a span of 181 days. And again, to make a point about 180 and 181. 180, what's it make you think of? Does it make you think of a circle? You know, half the degrees of a circle. Remember, the instruments surrounding the capital G, the logo of masonry, instruments of geometry, the compass for making circles, you know, the square for forming right angles. So 180 degrees, half a circle, like a turnaround, and also, and that's likely what will happen here, a turnaround, right? This whole thing will probably get dumped by the Republican-led Senate, which has how many Democrats right now? 47. But the span of 181 is interesting because that's the 42nd prime number, and Freemason equals 42. We'll talk more about that. Today's 221 days after Trump's birthday. The Bavarian Illuminati equals 221, again established May 1st, 1776 by Adam Weishaupt just before the American Revolution. A lot of interesting things with the Bavarian Illuminati and the establishment of this nation. It's also Trump's 222nd day of his age. Order out of chaos is 222. I noticed something this morning looking at this that I'd never caught before. Supposedly Donald Trump's July 25th phone call to the Ukrainian president was from 9:03 a.m. to 9:33 a.m. Right? 33, right? Masonry 33, secrecy 33, order 33, federal 33, Washington, D.C. 137, the 33rd prime. But then 903 is funny too because 93 is a number symbolic of time. They say the sun's 93 million miles away. The planet Saturn, which is the keeper of time to the occult, Saturn equals 93 in Gematria. So 903 to 933. That's when the phone call took place between the apprentice and the comedian. And again, from that phone call to today, 181 days, which is the 42nd prime, Freemasons 42, the capital G in Sumerian Gematria is 42. That's just where you multiply the alphabetic order times 6. A is 6, B is 12, C is 18, so G, the 7th letter, 7 times 6, 42. Instruments of geometry and mathematics. The Masons are builders historically. It's all math. Math 42. Look at the word Freemason in knowledge. 96, 42, 147. Remember, U.S. President's 147. President of the United States is 147. The full name of the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Alexandrovich Zelensky, 147. There's 147 windows on the White House. And don't forget that from the supposed phone call to the day Congress just voted on Trump's impeachment, which had everything to do with this, was 147 days later. You know? And again, we'd been talking about the rituals with 147 and the presidency from way before Trump was in office. And there's been several of these rituals in the time he's been in. And one of the clearest to date is this whole thing with the phone call and Congress voting to pass articles of impeachment 147 days later. Remember the old, and this goes on worldwide, because again, Masonry is worldwide. English is the code of the world. If you go back to Prime Minister Yatsenyuk, or was he the interim president? Whichever one it was. He was interim in Ukraine, I want to say back in around 2014-15, but he announced he was resigning after 147 days in office. Again, these numbers are not arbitrary. And 147 gains its significance in Genesis 47, where Jacob, who becomes Israel, dies at age 147. So there's a relationship between 47 and 147. And remember, the Masonic compass is in tribute to the 47th problem of Euclid. Even when you write out 47th, it equals 147. Okay. So, we just covered how 147 matters, Freemason knowledge, U.S. President of the United States, 147 windows on the White House. If you doubt it, look it up. It's a fact. It's not arbitrary. The Masons are counting. They're numbers people. Everything about D.C. is Masonic, numerically numbered. Unless you believe they accidentally built the Washington Monument 666 feet tall, again, 555 feet above ground, 111 below. But again, everything laid out perfectly in this city. Well measured. Masons. Now remember, just before the phone call, Al Green of the Congress was trying to bring forth this impeachment. This was July 17th, 8 days before the supposed phone call. And we just pointed out that day, it was the latest impeachment threat. And we talked about how impeach equals 37, like Al Green, like Congress. And sure enough, he brought it forth a span of 47 days from his birthday. Once upon a time when Nancy Pelosi set the record for the longest filibuster in Congress, that was on her 47th day of her age. It's just there's so many rituals around 47 in D.C., you can't keep up. And in the time I've been trying to keep up, I've probably missed 90% of them, but I still have thousands of examples to show. This is the number in D.C. Okay, so let's see. Did we hit this line? All right. Now, the Democrats brought the impeachment inquiry forth on September 24th. But if you recall, September 23rd, that was the day that the news that they were going to do it the next day. So they let us know on September 23rd that this was coming, that they had some real dirt on Trump. There was going to be an inquiry into his impeachment. And then it began September 24th, which we'll get to why it began that date. But September 23rd was the day they brought the hype, and that's the 266th day of the year. Remember, Volodymyr Zelensky, the name of the Ukrainian president, is 266. And let's also not forget that the Jesuit motto sums to 266. Right now we have the 266th Pope. Society of Jesus, the official name of the Jesuits, equals 187, like Washington, D.C., like George Washington, like how from Trump's June 14th birthday to the first publicly Jesuit Pope's birthday, Francis, December 17th is a span of 187 days. And again, 187, big number in D.C. It once used to be the Catholic colony controlled by the Jesuits. That's why Georgetown's there. And don't forget that Trump went to the Georgetown Fordham University in 1964. So, again, Jesuits and Masons rule D.C., and to go back to September 24th, the day after when they brought forth, here it is, Pelosi expected to announce impeachment inquiry, and then she did that day. And that was 183 days from Pelosi's birthday. The order out of chaos phrase has that 183 gematria. That's a Masonic motto. It's also a Jesuit motto, order out of chaos. But for Trump, it was his 103rd day of his age when they did this, 103, impeachment inquiry 103. And again, every last thing done with Donald Trump, the puppet on strings. Remember the popular music video when Trump was the rig selection? What was the name of that band? Popular band, maybe Avenged Sevenfold. But on YouTube, they were advertising the music video everywhere in the banners. It was all around the time of the election, and I pointed this out then. I said, look at this music video by this band. It's Hillary Clinton as a puppeteer above the stage with these world leaders, including Donald Trump. And again, remember, Donald Trump, huge fan of the Clintons. Loved the Clintons. So many complimentary things to say about them, even when Obama was still in office, until he had to run against him. Then it was lock her up. And people don't see through this? The lifelong Democrat with the New York connections? I mean, it is a puppet show, and only the blind can't see it. But from Trump's birthday to the impeachment inquiry, right on the nose, 103. 103. Another big number they like to use with their rituals. 103 is the 27th prime number. Ritual equals 27. If you run the alphabetic order in reverse, ritual is also 45, like Trump's number 45. Okay, so then remember, shortly after that, the White House was subpoenaed about the phone call. That was on October 4th. And we did a video on October 1st. What will they do on October 4th? We knew they were going to do something on this day, and we'll get to why we had this day circled. But the phone call was July 25th, the day leaving 159 days left in the year, supposedly with the Ukrainian president. Donald Trump 159, Scottish Rite 159. October 4th, the day we were just wondering why they were going to do this, is because it's the day leaving 88 days left in the year. Trump's 88. It's also the 277th day of the year, the 59th prime. Freemasonry 59 in Hebrew and English. Remember, 59 is the 17th prime. Modern Freemasonry began in 1717. And then 59 years later was 1776. The day the Masonic Empire officially expanded. The day we definitely didn't get free from the Masonic Empire. And again, that's what the mainstream is. Pushing a narrative that is not true while the real narrative goes on in plain sight at the same time that people are expected not to see. And just to illustrate that, we're told we're free here. This is the greatest nation ever. We get that programmed into us in school, from our government officials, on the radio, on the television, in the magazines. We hear it from our news anchors. We hear it from guests in the media. We hear it all the time. But is it true that we're free? No, we're not. We're not free. If your parents don't put you in school, they'll get in trouble. You could be taken away. You're not free to do a lot of things that you should be able to. You should be free to do. The government says, "Oh, that's not safe. You can't do that." Meanwhile, they purposefully subsidize food that poisons and makes you sick. If you go to third world countries and try to buy junk food, it costs a fortune. You can't afford it. It's like, what the hell? Why does this bag of potato chips cost $15 and I could buy 20 apples for $1 here? I want my bag of potato chips because you're an American, but that's the way it would be here in America too if they weren't subsidizing the junk food to poison you and make you sick. Meanwhile, for decades in this country, you couldn't even smoke a plant from the earth that just freed your mind a little bit, reduce the pain, reduce the anxiety. You weren't free to do that. I know more and more states are legalizing now, but again, you're not free here. You're told what to do, what to believe. You don't live in the best nation ever. You're exploited. You pay more for everything than you do in almost every other part of the world. You're told capitalism is the greatest and socialism's evil. Meanwhile, the socialist nations of the country have access to the same products we do and pay a fraction of the cost for them. It's because we have crony capitalism here. But again, you're lied to about everything. You're made to believe everything in opposites. So, and again, you're told that you have some say in these elections. You don't. And everyone should have known that in 2000. It could have been any more clear that year. Again, it was the land of monarchy. It was the land of kings and queens. George W. Bush becomes the first Republican president since his father, and it comes down to the state where his brother's the governor. And then keep in mind, his father was the 43rd vice president, his brother was the 43rd governor of Florida, and he became the 43rd president. Masonics 43, Yale's 43. They were members of Yale's Skull and Bones, the Masonic order. Florida's 43. Anyway, they also released the film Joker on this day as well. And Donald Trump said, "I am Batman" when he was on the campaign trail. Joker, Batman. Joker equals 59, 277, the 59th prime. We talked about how the civilian name for the Joker, most commonly known from the comic books, equaled 88. And again, this story is about a comedian from Ukraine and The Apprentice having a phone call. And they did the subpoena to get the information on this phone call on the day Joker came out. I mean, just think about it. Just think about it. Okay, and then Elijah Cummings served the subpoena 72 days from the phone call. Elijah Cummings 72, and then Elijah Cummings died pretty much right after that. At age 68, and they called him the Martin Luther King Jr. of Baltimore, like how MLK was killed in 68. And by the way, Donald John Trump. Here, let's pull up our Gematria calculator one more time. Donald John Trump, full name, 68. Author name, Donald J. Trump, with the alphabetic order in reverse, 68. And you might have caught earlier that when I wrote The Apprentice, 68. Remember, that's the big number at the CIA, who runs the mind control program that is the United States of America. Okay. So the hearings begin. The headline on November 13th. 6 days before. Oh, no. Never mind. But this headline that day, 88 like Trump, like the Republican Party. November 13th was the day leaving 48 days left in the year. Donald Trump, 48. It was 50 days after the impeachment inquiry. Inquiry 50. Politics 50. Donald 50. America 50. Since even before Trump set foot in the White House, we've been talking about how Make America Great Again, the things it lines up with, including impeach. So here we are going through this impeachment process. Again, it's a word that's been brought up a lot since the beginning of his presidency, and we've talked about why, just knowing this gematria. And by the way, notice politics has the 103 as well. It's got the 103 and 113 like Scottish. 113 is a number of deception from the Talmud. But remember, the impeachment inquiry was on Trump's 103rd day of his age. It's all political theater. Devin Nunes made the opening remarks. His name's got gematria 127 and 143 like Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. You big football fans, go back to the game before the Saints receiver beat Marvin Harrison's receiving record at 143 receptions for a season. The stat they put up before the game was how Thomas for the Saints came in with 127 receptions, and there was a chance he could get to 143 in the game. He ended up doing it in the next game, but they just put it right on the screen. I'm like, man, they just got to put their numbers up everywhere. And by the way, for you football fans, when he broke the record at 144, the Saints receiver, New Orleans equals 144, so does Drew Brees, who he caught the pass from. And yes, sports are scripted the exact same way that your politics are, and as I've been showing for years, they're scripted together. How many sports championships have we called off following the Donald Trump riddles over the years? Quite a few. Notice how in the NHL, when Obama got in office, all of a sudden the Chicago Blackhawks were back. They were just winning left and right with the Chicago president. They've done the same thing all throughout history. With regards to the 2 articles of impeachment the Democrats brought forth, again, when you write out 2, it's 58, like Freemasonry, like Rosicrucian, like Secret Society. Jerry Nadler brought them forth. Jerry Nadler, 58. And I remember when I did a video on this, I got a strike. It's part of how my last channel got deleted, for getting the strike for just pointing out some factual things, but I'll have to leave out those facts here because some facts just aren't allowed on YouTube anymore. Anyway, that was a date with 61, numerology, abuse of power, 61, Washington, D.C. Again, obstruction of Congress, 119, like Donald. Here's that shot of him from the Serta mattresses ad. You can watch this commercial. It's about never counting sheep again. Think about it. Who's voting in these elections? Sheep, period. If you're still voting after the 2000 election for presidents, you are a sheep. Absolutely. No other way to put it. And it's not to say that you shouldn't be not caring about anything. It's just to say that you shouldn't be validating lies. You should be out exposing the corruption, speaking up, raising awareness. You know? We got to do a 10 million man march on D.C. All races united, filling up every government building and saying, we're not leaving this building until you all resign. We're not going to be a Masonically led nation anymore by secret societies, Masons, Jesuits, and whoever else is at it. It's over. It's over. It's the end of the road. All right, little interruption. We got a phone call here. Caller?
Oh, you doing a live stream right now?
I'm doing a live stream right now.
Is it sports or no?
It's not.
Alright, I'll call back.
Alright, later, man. That's what the American people love. I need some more sports info. I actually am going to say something about sports here that's part of this presentation. This introducing of the articles of impeachment on the day they did was 77 days after the impeachment inquiry. Remember, DC's on the 77th meridian. Remember, United States is 77, so is Secret Society. Jerry Nadler, who brought forth the articles of impeachment, is of a certain religious persuasion that sums to 77. Never forget, on September 11th, Flight 77 hit the 77-foot tall Pentagon 77 minutes after taking off. Took off at 8:20. It crashed at 9:37, according to the official report. Pentagon construction began September 11th, 1941. Think about it. When you write out September 11th as words, it's 77. When you write out World Trade Center, it's 77. Donald Trump actually had a lot of truth he used to say about 9/11, and then he just shut up. He used to explain how it didn't make any sense. Didn't make any sense how those buildings collapsed. Sure didn't. Here's Donald Trump on Jerusalem Day. I just can't say anymore. Videos just get taken down. Oh, there you go. Your Gematria for your big 77 ritual. And this was 37 weeks after Nancy's birthday. Congress is 37, so is impeach. That was supposed to be there. Impeach Congress. Perfect rituals. And I mean, let's just take a moment to think about how Cruella de Vil can still be the leader of the Democrats. You mean to tell me out of these hundreds of people in this building, this is the best they can do, Nancy? And again, look at what the Super Bowl is right now. Looks like we have another Super Bowl structured around Donald Trump. We have Nancy Pelosi from San Francisco versus the Chiefs. Okay. Next slide. Nancy Pelosi says she will send articles of impeachment to Senate when I'm ready. Oh, wow, that sounds democratic. When you're ready, huh? It's just all about you, Nancy. It's all about you, Nancy. Of course, Nancy's another puppet on strings. Chosen agent. She might be leading the Congress when she's 110. That'd be tragic. Can you imagine 30 more years of Nancy? Anyhow, this phrase, when I'm ready, equals 55, like impeachment, like impeach. And again, what have we been saying about the history of impeachments? The very first impeachment in the history of the United States was Andrew Johnson, which began February 24th, the 55th day of the year. The only other one besides Trump and Andrew Johnson was Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton was about lying about sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky, who was also of that certain religious persuasion. Coincidences, trust me. They're all a coincidence, even though that certain religious persuasion is where Kabbalah and Gematria comes from. And again, Donald Trump, his impeachment was in December. December is the only month. Did I click on the wrong thing? I think I clicked on the wrong thing. December is the only month that sums to 55. So his impeachment thing began December, in the Congress. Gets impeached by the Congress in December. And then you got Nancy after that saying she'll send it to the Senate when she's ready. And then she sends it to the Senate January 14th, 2020, a date with 55 numerology. Isn't it a joke? It's just such a joke. Oh, I'm ready. Today's the date with the 55 numerology. Now I'm ready. Ugh. People just think it's all a coincidence. Okay. Yeah. 55. Okay. So, the vote in the Congress was December 18th. That was 187 days after Trump's birthday. Again, ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry's 187, Washington, D.C.'s 187, George Washington's 187. And don't forget, the last Republican president was George W. Bush, born on the 187th day of the year, July 6th. July 6th, 187. It's also the day leaving 178 days left in the year, and Kabbalah equals 178. Again, that's where this practice of letters and numbers and words and dates comes from. And then Trump's GOP convention. Told you back then, we were like, oh man, 18/7, 187 days from Inauguration Day. This is the latest clue that the apprentice might really be the next president. Oh, man. That was a date with 49 numerology that they did this. December 18th, 19, Scottish, Washington, America, all 49. It was 266 days after Nancy's birthday. Remember, she was the headline September 23rd about how they were going to bring forth this impeachment inquiry, which they did the next day. Volodymyr Zelensky, 266. Society of Jesus has that 187 thing. Again, the Jesuits Their motto in Latin sums to 266 and 122. And right now we have the first publicly Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, who's the 266th Pope. Pope Francis is also 122. San Francisco is also 122. Jimmy G, advancing to the Super Bowl, just became 12-2 at home for his career. San Francisco on the 122nd meridian. Pope Francis takes his name from, Catholic leadership of the past that San Francisco's named after. Just to see how all this comes together. Chiefs versus 49ers at this time. And remember, Pope Francis, 3-13-13. He becomes the 266th Pope. 3 is the second prime number. 13 is the sixth prime. So 266 in prime number relationships. And again, from Trump's birthday to the Pope's birthday is a span of 187 days. 187 chapters in the Torah, where a lot of this knowledge comes from. It's the first 5 books of the Bible, Old Testament. And then one of the latest details before today, again, Ken Starr, Alan Dershowitz, and Robert Ray joined Trump's defense in the Senate trial. This news was January 17th, 17/1, like 171, Kenneth Starr 171. It was the 17th of the month. Star equals 59, the 17th prime. Freemasonry again has the 59 connection. And Freemasonry has the 58 connection too. It was a date with 58 numerology. From Ken Starr's, or from the date of the announcement to Ken Starr's upcoming 74th birthday. Remember Masonic 74, George Washington 74. Supposedly George Washington had 74 generals and 33 were Masons. But 187 days from his upcoming birthday. It was Ken Starr's 181st day of his age. Again, we just talked about that. The 42nd prime, Freemason 42. And then Alan Dershowitz, his birthday. Wait a minute. Hold on. Did I screw this up? Hold on. Let me make sure I didn't screw this up. How did I write September 2nd? September 1st, 2019 to January 17th, 2020. I did screw it up a little bit, but I still see what they did. Okay. It was 138 days. Well, that's a number we've been talking about a lot with Trump too, because Donald Trump is 138 and federal's 138. And again, one time I had a Mason reach out to me, and he told me what the secret word was that you learned in your first 3 degrees of Masonry. And I don't know if he was, it was a phone call, so I don't even know if he was a real Mason or he was BSing me, but he told me how to spell it, and I wrote it down, and it equaled 138. And honestly, I didn't even record it anywhere because I just felt bad about it. Even though I am trying to expose what Masonry's up to, I feel like if you've taken an oath and you're not supposed to share secrets, you probably shouldn't. And again, I don't think all of Freemasonry is unethical. Again, there's a lot of people in Masonry that just want brotherhood and community. But anyway, I do think there's a level of ethics on all things, and sharing other people's secrets that you're not supposed to know about. I didn't want to do that. Plus, since it was being told to me, it was kind of hearsay. But I just do remember that, because when I saw that, I was like, I wonder if that's what 138 is all about with the federal city, the secret words, Gematria. Anyway, apologies. I did screw that up. I didn't mean to. I put September. I must have just done like a typo and not caught it. But it was 138 days after his birthday, Dershowitz. And, Or is it because... No. Is it because the news came on September 2nd? Why did I... No. January 2nd? No, never mind. I just screwed up. Okay, apologies for that. Notice Dershowitz has that gematria of 147, though, in 57. Freemasons 147, again, U.S. President of the United States. The name of the Ukrainian president's 147, like we said at the beginning, from the supposed phone call between the comedian and the apprentice to the Congress vote was 147 days, getting 147 windows on the White House. Scottish Rite is 57. George is 57. Several of the first presidents were inaugurated at age 57. The Senate trial process began January 16, 2020, a date with 57 numerology. Dershowitz has that 77 in it as well. And then his other attorney that he picked up that day was Robert Ray, 58. And Trump, winner of the 58th selection. I'm going to have to go back and fix this post. My fault. And then I just want to remind people about just the sports riddles with this. Remember when this umpire said during the time of the World Series that if Trump was impeached, he'd buy an AR-15 and start a civil war? And people are like, what in the world? And I was like, I guarantee this guy's a Mason. He's just adding to the theater of the show. And I forget if there's any gematria here with this. Oh yeah, Rob Drake. His name is just like gematria, but he's got that big 74 in it. 74. He's got the 52. Words with 52 include government, authority, president, White House, and more. It's another special number. Again, Trump attended Fordham University, the Jesuit university, 52 years before winning the rigged election in 2016. 64 to 52, or 64, 52 years later. His full name, Robert Paul Drake, was also 68, like Donald John Trump. But there was more to this. So, again, this is in the time of the World Series, which the Nationals were in. And look at this headline from the same day. This is the same day as that story. CNN goes with this one. 4 days that pitched America into an impeachment nightmare. Pitched. I take it back. This actually wasn't the same day. No. This was before. But we were talking about this the day of. We're like, okay, baseball's winding down, postseason's beginning, World Series coming up, pitched. I mean, that's the terminology of throwing the ball in baseball to the batter, pitched. 4 days that pitched America into an impeachment nightmare equals 251, which is the 54th prime. And remember, baseball is 54. And again, for those of you who are new here and maybe still watching but skeptical, look at the Gematria baseball. 54 with the alphabetic order, like the number of outs in a game. Again, 18 is how many half innings there are. Roger Maris hit 61 home runs in 1961. 61 is the 18th prime. With the reverse, baseball's 162. How many games are in a season? 54 again. And then again, Major League Baseball, 162 with the alphabetic order. All of these numbers are important. Notice they all break down to 9 in numerology. They're all 9, like 9 innings, completion, 9 innings in a game. June 3rd. Again, June 3rd. Go back to June 3rd is the 154th day of the year. The name Doubleday equals 154. This is how many games used to be in a baseball schedule. Doubleday is the American Freemason that baseball is credited to. The term Grand Slam equals 154. And again, June 3rd is the 154th day of the year. If you go back to June 3rd, 2017, you'll see that the first no-hitter of the season was thrown that day, and a record was set for the amount of Grand Slams all-time in MLB history, which just shows the whole league is scripted by the code, and we've been proving this for years. 351 is the 26th triangular number, and game equals 26, all game equals 26. And then one more time, you might recall Roy Halladay, the 2-time Cy Young winner, dying in a plane crash off the coast of Holiday, Florida, not to be confused with Halliday. He died on November 7th, 117. That's the day leaving 54 days left in the year. So anyway. Oh, and by the way, the date that they did this had 54 numerology as well. So that happened, right? And then the day that the Democrats brought the impeachment inquiry out into the public was the day of Game 7 of the World Series. And again, if you weren't following us, at the end of the regular season, we said why the Nationals would beat the Astros and why it would be in Game 7. Because all year we've been plotting out the significance of the date of Game 7. It was started with the ritual that they did with Seattle opening the season in Japan and Ichiro retiring. Seattle Mariners is 62, Ichiro 62. Game 7 of the World Series was scheduled for the day leaving 62 days left in the year, and a whole bunch of other things. But anyway, you might recall that Game 7 of the World Series was 6-2 in Houston, Texas, which also equals 62. But anyway, major rituals going on with the shooting of Steve Scalise, a major skull and bones ritual. It's what gave us the Nationals over Astros World Series. And on the day of Game 7, October 30th, again, this is the day the impeachment inquiry came out to the public, and this is what we pointed out that day. From Trump's birthday to Game 7, and this coming out to light was 138 days later. Donald Trump's 138, Federal's 138, Nationals is 138, the manager of the Nationals is Dave Martinez, 138, and impeachment's 107, like Washington Nationals is 107. And notice the last time the World Series was in D.C. with the old Washington team, it ended on October 7th, 10-7. They hadn't been to the World Series since 33. And again, for people who think it's silly that you need all these ciphers, again, I'll tell you what, you're dead wrong. Nationals equals 105. Again, when they won the World Series, they got their 105th win of the season. And by the way, they beat the Astros, who won 107 games in the regular season. But the Nationals got their 105th win of the season by winning Game 7. That's why we like the Nationals to win the World Series, because of how that lined up. They gave their Astros their 57th postseason loss all time in Game 7. It was the first time the World Series was in D.C. since 33. And again, it came 138 days after Trump's birthday. And by the way, World Series is 57 as well. It's also 147 like U.S. President, like President of the United States. So again, if you don't have all these ciphers, you can't see all of the riddles. You can still see a lot of it, but you can't see the whole thing. Again, the way to explain it is if you don't use reverse gematria, and if you, for the first, from the time I was teaching this from 2013 into 2016, it was 2016 that we discovered reverse. But from that time, the ciphers I talked about were the alphabetic order and the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, and sometimes Jewish gematria. Those were the three ciphers that we would reference. When we learned reverse, we're like, wow, this is the other half of the code, you know? And again, it was just things like seeing, we knew for years that president was 47 and all the 47 rituals with DC. And when we learned reverse, we just saw how many other things fit in. Like, we're like, whoa, White House is 47. Sure enough, DC's 47. You know? So, and again, it's like that for so many topics. It's because we studied gematria with just the four words and just the smaller group of ciphers for so many years that we already knew what numbers mattered. That's why when we saw reverse, we just saw how many pieces didn't fit in. You know, we already knew George Washington was a Mason and how big 74 is also important. And then when you see things like George Washington equals 74, and there's historical facts like how George Washington had 74 generals, you know, it's just obvious that that's the other half of the code. So people will always come by and say, oh, you're using too many, you can probably just do that with anything. And then that's just how their lazy mind works. Okay, can you just do it with anything? You know, if that's your assumption, how about go and try it out? Okay, my name's Zachary. Well, I do have the 107, right? So I do have the 107, okay. But we're just looking at one thing. But could you make Zachary Keith Hubbard, my name, fit into the 47 rituals of DC? My middle name's Keith. I don't have the 47 there. Hubbard, I don't have the 47. What about my mom? You know, does my mom help us get to 47? No. How about my dad? Does he help us get to 47? No. You know, there's just no 47s. What about my sister? You know, no. So I do agree that by using these ciphers, if you really want to force something and try to create something that's not there, you can probably do it, but you can't come along and say, well, with all those ciphers, you can probably make anything sum to 47 and then just never look at the work again. Because I've read, you know, I don't know how many comments I've read like that over the years. Thousands. This is dumb. Probably everything sums to 47 with 4 ciphers. Okay, try it out. See if everything sums to 47. You know? It doesn't. It does not. And these people are using this code ritualistically to, you know, fulfill an agenda, to fulfill ongoing distractions, keep people entertained, you know, just like they did in Rome. The people are entertained, they'll submit to tyranny. And also, remember this story, Hillary Clinton goes to her alma mater after 48 years, and then at the thing she talks about impeachment. This is from May of 2017, so this is shortly after the rigged selection. And again, we were just talking about then, you know, make America great again, impeach. They have to emphasize 48 years. Donald Trump's 48, so is Freemason. So, it's just, you know, it's undeniable what they do. It's undeniable. Unless you suffer from cognitive dissonance. So, just as a reminder, too, my older blog, Free to Find Truth. And again, I'll tell you guys, there is an organic side to this. I'll just tell you a little on the story about the organic side. So, 2 days ago, I was going to upload. I have to upload photos, upload screenshots to my blog, Free to Find Truth, and I went to the post is gone that I was doing because I was uploading a screenshot, and then I got this message from Google, and it says you have reached your limit. You have to pay X amount of dollars per month if you want to continue to upload more content to this blog. And I thought, whoa, I didn't even know this was possible because I've been posting here on this blog since 2013, right? Since 2013. And at first I was like, well, I started to get my wallet and I was like, God, I really don't want to pay Google anything the way they censor me because Google's even bought in this platform in the time I've been posting on it, so now Google owns this too. And I was about to do it just because, I've been posting here so long, and I was just like, ugh, I really don't want to give this company any money. And then my sweet lady, she started to get mad at me. She's like, you just had a company build a website for you. Why don't you just post on there and stop using this thing? And I said, well, that is true. That is true. And so I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, well, I guess that's what I'll do. So I left this comment that I'll be posting on there. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what's really weird about this? For those of you guys who don't know the story, I called my work Free to Find Truth when I started, not Gematria Effect News. But Truth Frequency Radio, they reached out to me. What year was that they reached out to me? I've lost track of time. I want to say 2016. I think I've been on Truth Frequency Radio since 2016. Might have been, I think it was 2016. It was like around the time Prince died. Yeah, it was 2016. And they said, hey, you want to start doing a show on here? And I said, sure, I'd love to. And so they said, okay, we want to call your show Gematria Effect News. And then me doing Gematria, I was like, well, I got to run the Gematria on that. Let me see if I like it. And I typed in Gematria Effect, and I was like, oh my God, it sums to 119. And again, I'm always exposing how so many rituals are done around this number. And I was like, I don't think I want this to be the name of the show. And Chris Geo, who runs the network, he said, okay, we'll come up with a different name. And so I did. And he came back to me. He's like, I like Gematria Effect News better. He said, sorry, I'm not exactly a dictator, but it is my network. I want that to be the name of the show. I said, fine. Gematria Effect News it is. And of course, Gematria Effect News does have a different value. But just that Gematria Effect, 119, right? And then so I started thinking about that. And I've ran with it ever since, just because now a lot of people know me through Truth Frequency Radio. And after they kept deleting the channel as Zachary K. Hubbard, because I had 15 Zachary K. Hubbard channels that they deleted, I was like, well, maybe if I try a different name, they'll leave it up. So anyway, I just started thinking about it. I was like, weird. Well, this is weird, actually, because it's January 19th that this happens, and now it forces me to start posting everything on my Gematria Effect News site. So anyway, there is an organic side to this. It is, because you got to think about this. It's pretty mind-boggling. I've been posting nonstop on here. There's thousands and thousands of posts since 2013, and then I hit the limit that evening on January 19th, 119. So again, the organic side is real, and sometimes that's the thing that makes it hard to. It's like, well, if there is an organic side, how do you know that all of the people will say that to me? They'll say, if this is all organic, how do you know it's not all happening organically? And again, I'll say, use your brain. Just a thing like this, like how perfect it all is. Every DC ritual. It's not like every last thing that happens in all of our lives is a perfect Gematria riddle. It's not. But sometimes it happens and you catch it and you're like, that is really weird. But everything that goes on with DC is. And just think about the mockery, right? The mockery. I'm just looking at this floor that they're standing on here. Is it white and black like a Masonic floor? But again, you have a comedian president in Ukraine who was a comedian before becoming president, and then you have a reality TV star. And then just everything's just so perfectly structured. The sports games, and again, for those of you guys who keep thinking the sports games aren't rigged, do you guys watch these games sober? Are you sober at all when you're watching these games? Go back and watch the highlight of Patrick Mahomes scampering into the end zone against the Titans before halftime. How can you think that that's legitimate? None of the Titans tried to tackle him. Multiple players could have knocked him out of bounds when he was along the sideline, and then the last guy who had a chance to wrap him up just runs by and sticks out his shoulder pad a little bit to graze him? And you think this is real? And this goes on every single week.
My favorite, I didn't watch much football this year, but my favorite highlight out of things I caught was in the Redskins-Patriots game. There was a 60-some-yard touchdown by the Redskins. And go back and watch that highlight. It's just hilarious. It is hilarious. Again, the entire New England defense got the velociraptor arms, meaning they tucked their arms up into their chest and kept them there and ran at the guy with the ball and just like touched him with their arms tucked into their chest. They all did it like they were all velociraptors. It's like, oh, is that what they pay you millions of dollars to do? To tuck your arms into your chest and play bumper bodies on the football field? Let the guy run down the field for 60 yards, run through the whole defense with the velociraptor arms? And again, that's how I know it's not all organic, you know? All these scores end up with the perfect ritual. It's just everything. And again, who runs it all? Masonry. And what's Masonry based in? Kabbalah. And where's this code of letters and numbers come from? Kabbalah's Book of Formation, which stated God created the world with letters, numbers, and words. So we'll leave it there, Truth Seeker. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. And again, thank you, everyone who supported the campaign to go down and educate New Orleans about all the murder rituals connected to their big championship season with LSU, plus more. Very excited about that. Haven't quite hit the full goal, but again, because enough people have contributed, the flight's already booked, and I think we'll have enough resources to get everything done that I want to. If a few more people want to chip in $5 to make sure we got enough, we'll appreciate that. I'll pin that as the top post if you want to support that campaign. And again, if this campaign's successful, well, it's already successful. If I go down there and do a good job, you know, making this happen, getting the word out, filming it, inspiring people, I hope you guys support the next campaign, because realistically, again, if we had the resources right now, I think I'd be in D.C. right now as well. I mean, arguably, I could be in D.C. right now, standing out in front of the Senate, bringing light to what's going on, and really that's what should be done. And in a way, I hope I inspired people enough already to go out and do it, just people in the D.C. area. Hey, let's put a group together. And in that breath, you guys, the other website that I built, and some people are there, but it's not as active as I like. There's around 1,000 people signed up. I wish there was 100,000 people signed up, because I am paying for the hosting to support that kind of people, major traffic. But again, this community that's been built, Free to Find Truth, this is the place online that's censorship-free, tracking-free. It's a place for people to share truth, to network, to organize. You know, I wish there was a group of people on there in Washington, D.C. that were like, hey, let's go pound the pavement today. Let's go spread this knowledge. Let's go stand out in front of the Senate with signs. Show people that this is political theater. We're being made fun of. Our taxpayer dollars are being stolen from us. This is what it goes to. So, if you haven't signed up for Free to Find Truth yet, I really wish you would. I'm paying a lot of money each month for this site. And again, the reason I'm doing that is because you guys have invested in this cause. I'm putting the money back into the community, but let's use it. I have less people signed up for this site now than I do for my Patreon. And again, I know the reason why. It's because a lot of people are on my Patreon because, you know, they just want sports information. They don't really want to change the world. I understand people got to pay the bills, but man, we got to change this world. If we changed the world, then we wouldn't all be slaving the way we are. You know? So, freetofindtruth.com. Social media for truth seekers. Censorship free. Just don't troll anybody. If you get into a beef with somebody over a certain subject, just agree to disagree and move on. Make friends on there, not enemies. All right. We'll leave it there, truth seeker. Till next time.